Welcome to Revolution Against Evolution. I'm your host, Doug Sharp.
Your co-host, Rich Gear, here as well, and I'm very happy to have a very good friend. I don't want to say old friend anymore, but been around with Ian Juby, and he just came out to the house tonight, to the studio, and we last minute invited him to come on. We mainly did that because Doug is not feeling so good. Full disclosure, he's a mess, but we're gonna do well despite all that. I'm recovering a bad sinus infection, but I'm feeling pretty good. And Ian and his mother, she's in the studio audience here. We basically had a 12-hour. I've had a 12-hour trip. Yep, 12-hour trip. So with all the things that are going on, we welcome you here to the show. So, Doug, without any further ado, why don't you get us started?
Well, we're going to be doing a show called Marching to Zion today, because we're going to review a little bit about my upcoming book, Don't Let Your Geology Mess Up Your Theology. And I have a chapter on Zion National Park. And Ian has been there, unfortunately, and so I think that you have some insights about Zion National Park that we'd like to hear about, and I'm glad that you are on our show tonight.
Yeah, good to be here, and we've done a lot of stuff together. I was trying to think about that on our way down here, because
did you go to Joggins Park?
Yeah, we all went to Joggins.
Fossil? Yeah, I didn't go. Yeah. I was not there.
Yes, you were.
I wasn't there at Joggins Park.
No.
Nope.
I thought you were.
No, it's Larry Perry.
Larry Perry. Yeah.
And you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and then David von der Heide as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I couldn't go for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Oh, for some reason I thought you were there. But you were both at the Paluxy, the one
yes.
here.
Oh yeah.
And was fun. We were there together for that. And and then we've done a lot of stuff here in Michigan whenever I was cruising through. But
right, we had you on Zoom a while back.
Yes, that's right.
We talk about AI and a lot of other different things that we talked. It was fun. So it's nice to have you here up close and personal.
Yeah, artificial intelligence, natural stupidity,
and the Red Record.
That's right. We mentioned that as well.
So we talk about Zion Park. You said you did some research there.
It was kind of funny how that happened, because when I first went into Creation Science Ministry full time, first place I went to was Joe Taylor's Mount Blanco Museum. And I was there for about a month and a half.
Where's that located?
So that's in Crosbyton, Texas.
Okay.
Now, I don't know the fate of the museum now, because Joe sadly passed away last year. I miss him a lot.
And you can't get there from here either, so.
No, it's very difficult. But while I was there, Stan Lutz, that's where I met Stan Lutz, and he and I, Joe sent us on a mission from God. We were to deliver, Joe had prepped out some fossil bison bones, a huge part of the skeleton that had been excavated in Stinnett, Texas. And so Stan and I drove up there. And interestingly, that is also the same trip that we discovered in the town hall in Stinnett, that human footprint.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yep. That was, nobody knew about. Dr. Baugh is from Stinnett. And he didn't know about it.
I don't know about this. Fill me in on this. I'm kind of interested.
That made my day to be able to walk up to him and say, so did you know there was a fossil human footprint in the town office in Stinnett, Texas? And actually, I said Stinnett because I didn't know how to pronounce it. And he corrected me. He said, Stinnett? I said, yeah. And he just... What? So it was so good to do that to him for a change. But I digress. On our way there, Stan had done some geology studies in university and at college. He never completed the courses, but he had done some geological studies. And to get to Stinnett, we went through parts of Palo Duro Canyon, which the highways go through there. And while we were there, as we're driving along, of course, you see rock cuts and you see rock layers.
Right.
And some of them, there was this one layer that I now know what it's called, and it's called crossbedding, which is very prominent. I mean, the whole park is crossbedding. But it was this strange layer, sedimentary layer, with all these sloped
Okay.
layers inside it, and we both looked at that and went, "What on earth is that? How do you explain that? Like what's the mechanism here? What's going on?" And wouldn't you know it, not I think 3 months later, during research we were conducting at Creation Evidence Museum with the flumes there, with Professor Emmy Clark, Andrew Rodenbeck as well, who is an engineer, and we built a flume, which is basically just a box with clear sides.
Okay.
And you run water and sediments through it.
Oh, okay.
And so you can lay down sediments and you can study the formations and everything. So we had built this flume so we could tilt it uphill, downhill, vary the speed,
Right.
vary the sedimentary flow, vary the water flow, all that. And so in this one experiment, we tilted it uphill. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, if the floodwaters of Noah's flood are coming onto the land, that's basically going uphill. The water is gradually going higher and higher, and it's depositing sediments as it goes, right? So we tilted it uphill, ran the sediments and water through it, and boom, right like that, we watched crossbeds form right before our very eyes.
Really? How big was this flume?
That one was about, I think it was 8 feet long. It was just a little one.
And how wide? Or
So it was probably about
a
16
foot?
inches,
Oh, 16, okay.
something like that.
Yeah.
And that was our first attempt. We'd never built a flume before. We had never experimented with a flume. They had this gigantic rotary flume that Professor Clark, Henry Voss, one of his students, built many years ago with funding from Creation Research Society.
Oh, okay.
And so it was this huge, it was a rotary flume. It was a gigantic tub with clear walls, clear plexiglass walls.
Okay.
And you would pour water and sediments into it. And this is on display at Creation Evidence Museum right now. If you go there, you can see it.
Down at Biloxi?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. And so there's these, you guys probably saw it. It's a big green machine.
Oh,
And they
didn't
had
we?
it under a canopy.
Didn't we go through that? I thought we went through that, Doug, but anyway.
Well, so
buy
it has these paddles that we would run with a hydraulic motor, and it basically spins up the water, it stirs up the sediments, and then you stop it. And so I had to re-engineer it because it wasn't working. The moment you stopped the paddles, it stopped everything.
Oh, yeah.
So I built it with this mechanism where when you stop the paddles, they would flip up out of the water.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And
Okay.
then the water and sediments would stop.
My sediments, exactly. Okay, I couldn't resist.
I see what you did there.
I couldn't resist that.
I see what you did there.
It's not a flume by night operation. Sorry. Ching. All right.
So we learned a lot of things about how it did not work. You name the sedimentary structures, we saw it. But the problem is, it's a rotary flume, and the water on the outside is spinning faster than the water in the middle. And so the water velocity is critical to sedimentary transport and deposits.
Yes, okay.
So coming back to our linear flume, it was just a long box.
Yeah.
Going uphill, what was happening is the water would build up. It was like a beachhead. So it would deposit sediments at the entrance of the flume, and then water would pool in behind that wall of sediments. So now the water coming in is moving fast enough that it picks up sediments and carries it. But the moment it hits the standing water, that standing water is going 0 meters per second. So the water coming in is going fast enough to carry sediments. The moment it hits standing water, it stops. And it's just like a conveyor belt, it drops the sediments.
Oh.
And so it was just like a conveyor constantly dumping these sediments all in perfect, beautiful crossbedding. So then you guys...
So define crossbedding for our audience out here, just
Yes.
so they know exactly what we're talking about.
we'll throw it, I'll get Doug to...
Well, I got some pictures of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Doug's got a picture. We'll put that up there so you can see that.
Yeah.
Zion National Park is full of them.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were talking, because we got a little digressed here, but I don't care. I was so interested in the flume thing and the sediment stuff that.
It got wild.
Yeah.
You guys have gone to Grand Canyon, right?
Yes, many times.
And you did shows on Grand Canyon?
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you do any shows on the footprints in the Coconino sandstone?
No, have we? I don't.
I mean
Which ones?
the reptilian type of footprint?
Yes, depending on who you ask. Some say it's amphibian, some say it's reptilian. Regardless, they only go uphill.
Oh, I've seen things on that. I don't know that we've done a show on that at all, but
Okay.
we may have talked about it. We've done a lot of shows.
Okay, so yes, we have. So for you guys here, there's your sedimentary layers, and then you've got these sloped crossbeds.
Yeah.
So it's a curve at the top called the top set.
Yep.
Then the foreset, and then the bottom set where it curves out again.
Okay.
So what we did next is Dr. Baugh went over to the pet store and bought a couple of newts. And we threw them into the flume and produced crossbeds. And the newts tended to want to, they hung out in the place of least movement of the water. They were at rest.
Oh, yeah.
So they, what's the word? Reclused. They reclused themselves. And so here's the water, and here's the crossbedding being formed.
Right.
And what would happen is they would sit right there.
Oh, okay.
And in order to escape that, because the water is coming into here, it's moving this way and it's moving this way. In order to leave there, the only way they could go was
walk uphill. Oh, interesting.
And if you look at the Coconino footprints, you'll notice, you can see this in Grand Canyon if you ever go down.
I haven't seen those, but I've seen pictures of it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so if you look at them, you'll notice the footprints go from very deep impressions to lighter and lighter as they go uphill to claws only, because it's being buoyed up by water. And then they completely disappear. So did they grow wings and evolve wings and fly away? Or
amphibians into birds.
yeah,
I've heard something about
exactly.
like dinosaurs into birds, you know?
Exactly. So in our humble little experiment, we instantly replicated exactly what you see in the Coconino sandstone.
Wow, has that ever been written down?
Only on my website. I never formally published on it. I did present a paper on that at the first Creation Geology Conference.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I presented
Did you
it
get any feedback on that or any?
Yeah, it was interesting. But one of the gentlemen there, said, "I really hope I see this published," which sadly that's mostly on me that it wasn't published. So I'll take the onus on that one. But it was so basically to go uphill, they would fight the flow of water,
right,
which is what they wanted to do, is what we were observing.
Yeah.
They could easily just go this way and just swim away.
Yeah.
So they tended to either float on the surface and swim, or recluse themselves right here where they could just sit there.
Okay.
And not have to expend any energy, and they could just sit there. And as the sediments built up, they would literally just step up on top of the new sediments as they're being. It was a very relaxed place for them to be. So anyway, so Zion, I went there. I think it was a year after we conducted all that research. And that
was all in Texas, right?
Yes, that was all at Creation Evidence Museum.
Yep.
And Zion was just fantastic for textbook examples of crossbeds.
So, do you have like a top 3 or top 5 takeaways from your research done in there in the Zion?
Well, that would be the big one.
The crossbedding?
The crossbedding, because it's the most prominent feature in the whole park. It's a beautiful park. Wow.
It is beautiful.
It was spectacular. That was a fun one, actually. I was with a geologist from Canada, Guy, from Quebec, and he was heavily involved with the Creation Research Society of Quebec with Lawrence Tisdall, whom you guys.
Oh yeah, how's he doing these days?
Oh, he's doing good. Good.
Now, do you say Quebec or Quebec?
Yes.
Okay. Answer that question.
Yes. Depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
So Guy and we participated in a debate on the origin of Grand Canyon, along with David von der Heide, as well as a number of other creation geologists. And we toured around, so we went to all over the place in Grand Canyon. It was awesome. Then Guy and I went on a tour through the Four Corners, and Zion was one of the places we went.
Yeah.
Just what a fantastic, you just can't take it all in.
What's interesting is if you take a look at Zion from Google Earth, it looks like a giant monster did a claw up and down that whole area. It's got all these canyons but they're all parallel. It's kind of interesting.
See me Godzilla got over there? I didn't know that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there was a big Godzilla.
Big Godzilla. Big Godzilla.
So, we just did a little tour at Zion and went into the Zion Canyon, and I think Matt, he went back and did the Narrows, which...
Yeah, he did.
It's a lot of fun, and I think that there was a rock fall just recently in Zion, which when we were there, it happened just before, and somebody from that was up on top of Angel's Landing took a video of what was happening.
Oh, have you seen it, Doug?
I've seen the video. It's on YouTube. You can watch it.
I'm gonna have to look
But
that
it
up.
was kind of interesting because it fell right where the Weeping Rock is.
Okay.
And I guess there weren't any people injured, but there was a bus that was trapped from moving through, and so it was kind of a hairy experience. But it shows that still erosion type of experiences are happening there. And if you can imagine the flood going through there, it really creates a lot of deposits that are accumulated.
Well, that's the thing I'm interested. I'm always interested in what you consider flood and post-flood. The deposits are laid down during the flood, for the most part, but the canyons or formations seem to be formed oftentimes post-flood or right after the flood. In other words, like the canyon, Grand Canyon, a lot of people think that the breach, they call it a breach dam theory, where you have these big lakes and suddenly there's a weakness, and just like a fuse, like a flue, just comes right down there and cuts even some of the back channels. It's what happens with water. It cuts back. Only you're talking on lakes that are as large as Utah and Arizona combined. You're not talking about some minor things. So even though there was runoff of the floodwaters, you still had major deposits in areas of backed up high water that, and when we went, was it Mexican Hat or where is it, Doug, that we went, you could actually almost look like, what was that old song was by America, going through the desert, with a horse with no name, but it was like a desert, it has its life underground, but it's the idea that at one time this might have been underwater,
right,
but now it's all direct. You could almost see the basins, that might have been there, and we were going there, but those are things that always catch my eye, and how they cut in there. So like Zion is a park. You got a lot of crossbedding. Was there a lot of formations in there? Do you think were some of them, all of them? How was it laid out? Flood, post flood, or much later?
Yeah, no, I would place those formations during the flood, and I think most, probably all creationists would as well. There might be some dissenters. Now, as for the canyons themselves and the massive erosion, that's where the debate arises. I think most would say that was the flood runoff.
Yes.
So you have.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So you have Noah's flood. Has now covered the top of the highest mountain.
Yeah.
Now that water has to run off of the land.
Right.
And when it does so, it erodes these massive canyons, massive planation surfaces, where it's. I wrote a paper on that in CRSQ, where the entire east coast of Canada, I traced it for over 800 kilometers. That's how much I followed. It may go beyond that. So what is that, 500-ish miles?
Yeah.
Of all the mountains have been shaved off flat.
Okay, yeah.
And it's incredible. You can stand on top and you just do a 360 on Grossmorn Mountain in Grossmorn National Park. And it's perfectly flat as far as the eye can see.
Right.
And the contention is that this was glaciers. I would contend that's impossible. Glaciers, by definition, flow downhill. It's flat as far as the eye can see. There is no downhill. And glaciers carve gouges. They do not carve flat surfaces. They also leave behind moraines, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in particular, Grand Canyon, I believe Zion as well, we get into areas what they call water gaps and wind gaps. And Grand Canyon is a classic example of a really, really big water gap. There's certain places where you can stand, and you can see this in Google Earth as well. It cuts through what they call the Colorado uplift.
Yes.
And it's a gigantic dome mountain. So if you can picture a dome and you pour water around it, what's going to happen? The water's going to go around the dome.
Okay.
Grand Canyon went right through the middle of the dome. Why? And this is where the contentions have been in that the Colorado River, if the Colorado River carved it, the Colorado River literally has to flow uphill thousands.
Yeah, pretty much nobody believes that.
Yeah.
Nobody believes that. Whether you believe it's a water runoff, or whether it's a breach dam, or whether or a combination of I don't know. It could be different things. Nobody believes that the Colorado is presently there.
They still talk about the antecedent river theory, and,
Yes,
but it doesn't work.
and it's just for this reason, because it isn't just that the river has to go uphill. The river could have gone around the mountain.
Yeah.
It's going to go downhill around the mountain, not through it.
Takes the path of least resistance.
Yes. Whereas if the water starts above the mountain, as in Noah's flood, and that water is receding off the land, now you've got the water the water does not have to go uphill. And the water is now moving at speed. It's going to cut through whatever is there. Doesn't matter how hard the rock is.
Well, it'd be somewhat plastic, somewhat soft at this point in time.
Probably.
There's still water permeated, so they're not cemented together fully yet. So the weakest areas would be the places that they cut through, and
Well, it's like when we were at Joggins. The Joggins are all these tilted strata, but at the top it's all sheared off.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was the planation surface that I published my paper, because you can follow that surface right up into Labrador, all up through Cape Breton. It's quite dramatic, actually, to get up on top of these places. Yeah.
Really amazing,
Yeah. Every time you go to Zion, it's just trying to do research. When you just look at all this eye candy, it's hard to really.
Yes.
It's hard. It's really almost hard to really do any scholarly work. Well, if you've been there enough times, I suppose it's like anything else. We were going through the whole Southwest area, and it's oh my gosh, everything. So beyond Bryce Canyon's another one.
Yep.
That's a strange.
It is.
That is, and what's so interesting is how different Zion is to Bryce, and even how different that is to the Grand Canyon. How different that is to Capitol Reef. They're all in these areas, and it is beautiful. They all have different ways. Therefore, like Capitol Reef, you're kind of going at the bottom of the canyon, and Grand Canyon, you're really, unless you hike to the bottom, you're at the top. So unless you go in the beginning, it's very interesting how all of that, but it all serves as a flood or post-flood type of event.
Capitol Reef is a wild place.
Yeah, it's a wild place. Yeah, you've been there.
Yeah.
I have. I honestly don't remember much about it because we weren't there very long, and I was with Guy again. That was part of that trip.
How long were you in Zion?
I think 2 days.
2 days. Okay.
Yeah, we covered quite a bit of ground, but we were hustling. We put on a lot of miles in a couple of short weeks.
And what were the things you were trying to be? The crossbedding was something you were observing. Were there certain things you were trying to write, or just?
No, we were just there to look,
just to be just to be a tourist.
Yep.
Okay.
Because
Checkerboard Mesa shows that crossbedding real.
Oh yes, it does. Yep.
And but there's one spot where you just come out of the tunnel, and that there's all this angled.
Yeah, I love that.
Strata that's right as you come out of the tunnel, and then there's a slot canyon that goes down through there. And,
yes.
And so it's kind of
this is Zion.
Zion, yeah.
Because I get the formation. Doug will correct me, but the tapete sands, they're like going up like this, and then the top is shaved off, or it's layered, or there's less sedimentary strata like this. I can't remember which one is. It's like this.
Are you talking about the Greek unconformity?
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah. Because the tapetes, if I recall, has some crossbedding in it
Yeah.
as well. I'm trying to remember now. I have to go back and look at my field notes and photos
Coconino.
again.
There's all these names for all these different layers and formations and stuff, but
Yeah, because the tapetes in particular, I was looking at closely because of the fossil footprints found there, which are not supposed to be there.
this is really, I have not heard this. Yeah.
Nobody has. And it was actually John Mackay that discovered them. He was on a tour down to Tonto Point with Gary Parker, who had done numerous.
He didn't know about them.
Gary never saw them. He had given tours down to Tonto Point itself, who knows how many times. And I mean, he's one of the more knowledgeable young Earth creationists I know of. That guy's a walking encyclopedia.
Oh, yeah.
And John was with him on this trip, and he's like, Gary, look at this. And no joke, I have casts of these tracks.
Oh, did you?
You compare, if I show you two black and white photos of the Coconino sandstone footprints and the ones in the tapetes, you could not tell the difference. Spit and image. The only reason you can tell the difference is by the color of the rock. That's the only way you can tell
Wow.
the difference.
So you think the same creatures did both?
But yeah, clearly, and they should not be there.
And they don't know what kind of creature they don't. You said they debate between an amphibian and reptile.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they are negatively buoyant, whether it's amphibians or reptiles.
Oh yeah, that doesn't matter. Yeah,
Yeah, so at least negative or
that's still fascinating. Your experiment on why it would have gone uphill like that. That to me is very intriguing.
Yeah.
because I've not heard that before either. That's what I was referring to more or less. Because I have seen pictures of the footprints going up the rock face like that, and I go, how did that happen? And I go, did they press it when it was like this, and then it got moved up? But you're talking about something that would have been done right when the layers are being covered
as
up.
it was being
That's
formed.
really fascinating. That's
Yeah.
a whole different
And
thing I never thought about.
and
I've
I've-
never heard.
I've got those videos on my website, ianjuby.org, for sure.
Okay.
I believe I have them on YouTube on my Wazulu channel.
Okay.
As well. WAZ. Do you guys say it's Z or Z?
I say Z.
Z. WAZOOLOO.com. That'll take you to my YouTube channel. I believe I got the videos from the experiments on there as well.
I would say probably the PhD scientists say Z for
Could be.
sounds but I don't know.
My mom was always correcting me when I was.
Well, listen, we got about a minute left to go. So, what kind of things, what takeaways do we want to take? Did we get what we want to talk about on Zion?
Well, in Zion, you get there. One way to get there is to fly into Las Vegas. And we talked about Red Rock Canyon and Valley of Fire last
That was
time.
fascinating.
that
Yeah.
was
But-
awesome too.
But
Yeah.
and so, but the geology in Zion, I remember there's a hurricane ridge that goes up to on the western part of that, and we didn't get into column canyons, which is on that particular part of Zion. But that's sort of how you get there. Interstate 15 from Las Vegas, and it's about 2 hours from Las Vegas to Zion National Park. So go visit that place to see
Beautiful.
if you take a look at what we were just talking about. And we'll see you next time on Revolution Against Evolution.